How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Just
Yeah, we were talking before we hit record a little bit about basketball. It's all good, like well-deserved and stuff, and we're excited about it. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode on the Dynamic Lifestyle Podcast. We have the awesome and amazing Lee Boyce in the house. Lee, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Just keeping busy. Just got back from a few clients and whatnot, and just doing what I got to do out here in Toronto.
Yeah, we were talking before we hit record a little bit about basketball. Like, I mean, you're a Raptors fan, we're a Warriors fan. We're just pretty much saying how you guys crushed our hearts, but it was all good, like well-deserved and stuff. And we're excited about the season coming up like in the next month or so.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I think that, with the bubble actually being a full season long this time, it should be a little bit easier for people to sort of like get acclimated to that sort of new setup and, maybe even just become the new normal for them. Who knows how many years that's going to go on, because stadiums are going to get full of 25,000 people anytime soon. I know that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Lee, we really appreciate your time and just like everything that you're doing in the fitness industry. We've been following you for quite some time. So we're excited about this episode. So let's kick this off. So we're going to have some fun on the show before we really get into like learning more about what you're doing and all that. So have you ever played this game? So this, for the people that are watching this on YouTube, it's called Never Have I Ever. It's a card game. Have you ever played this?
Never played it, but I know what it is.
Okay. So you're ready to go for it.
Yep.
Okay, so what we're going to do is pick 4 random cards, and you're just going to ask them to the best of your ability. Sound good?
Well, he has to say either I have,
Sure.
never, or I have.
Okay, gotcha. Let's do it. First one. Have you ever been, it goes, never have I ever been annoyed by a one-upper friend.
One-upper
friend.
Yeah, no, of course.
So you have.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, cool. Next one.
Never have I ever frantically tried to stop a smoke alarm.
You know what? Truthfully, I guess I'm going to say no to that one. I've never had to do that.
All right.
Okay. Next one. Never have I ever gotten destroyed by an edible.
Never have I.
All right.
Never have I ever.
Last one. Never have I ever had to perform community service.
You know what? It was part of my high school for the diploma. So actually, technically I had to. So yes, I have done that.
All right.
Right on. All right, Lee, that's pretty much it for this quick game. So thanks for being a good sport on that. So let's dive into this, man. I'm really curious about just like the gym situations all around, just like, Canada, whether it's US. I know that I have a couple colleagues and FitPro students in our program that are from Canada as well, too. And you guys went down like another 30-day lockdown. So I just want to know your like kind of like stance on that, just opinions, like how are you feeling about all this going on, kind of the future in the fitness industry?
Well, Toronto is a very dense city when it comes to personal trainers and people in the fitness industry, especially the main core of Toronto. And because of that, it's causing a lot of small businesses to sort of be in limbo as to whether or not their business is going to be able to sustain the time that things are locked down and then closures are being put in place. So when you're not a big franchise, for example, it's a little bit harder for these restrictions to be sort of taken with, like an open mind, right? Big franchises I kind of understand, because of the fact that, if you have like hundreds of members that are passing through every single day and whatnot, then there's going to have to be a little bit more advanced protocols to keeping things clean, the control of how many people are going through there and so on. So it might even warrant like a full scale lockdown. But for smaller businesses where the traffic wasn't even heavy to begin with, or personal training only studios where the traffic is limited to very few people in the space and stuff like that, it's a little bit of a tougher pill to swallow. And it could be the difference maker between, being open and being closed whenever this all ends. And I think that, I feel a lot for a lot of the small businesses for that reason. Like when you have a 3,000 square foot studio compared to having a 40,000 square foot location of a franchise, it should be viewed a little bit differently. And so restrictions need to sort of be case by case. That's all notwithstanding the fact that gyms in general, at least here, are getting a little bit of a bad rap that I don't think they deserve. I think that people who make the rules in the government when it comes to closures and lockdowns that are putting gyms near the top of the list of like dangerous or unsanitary or whatever places,
Unessential.
they, yeah, unessential businesses, like non-essential businesses, for one, they're essential for a lot of different reasons, like, mental health, other things like that. But even just in terms of like the hygiene side of things, I don't think they realize just how clean most gyms usually tend to stay when people stay on top of that sort of thing. Whether it's wiping down equipment, they might have the ideology that there's a lot of like just dripping with sweat, spitting, grunting kind of people, and they're all over the place and just bodies hitting each other and rubbing against each other and so on. And so it's just like a germ haven, when it's not necessarily always like that. And, especially when it's a place that's not heavily trafficked, it could be something that can very much be put under control, and distancing can still be put into place, and people won't really be at much risk in a place like this. So especially with the appropriate screening methods that can be going down, like, a temperature check, for example, or just like, just even a light screen, that could definitely apply some good control to the situation, and still let the businesses earn some money and have some sort of business and revenue stream, so they don't have to stay shut down for 6 months. And with that in place, it can affect the mental health of the client base. People who they might be going stir crazy because they're in lockdown and they can't work and they're under stress and so on. They need a place to at least like manage that stress and blow off steam or whatever, and keep their health in check. Aside from all that, when you talk about, whether or not there's hypocrisy involved with this, or a little bit of a contradiction, like when you think about other things that are still considered essential or still open that aren't even essential, for example, you talk about a golf course, for example, right? People are going and they're golfing in groups of 4, 6, 8 even, and these places have never closed, not even once, at least not around here. So it's kind of like, well, if that stuff is open, well, how come a gym can't be open with the proper control and measures being put in place? I don't know. It's just, I have a lot that I could say about it, but there's a lot of other gym owners and a lot of other people who are in the fitness industry who have the same questions that I have. And there's definitely a realization that things need to kind of be looked at a second or third time by people who might have a little bit more experience in fitness themselves, so that the proper rules can be put in place. And I'm not saying that I'm completely against a lockdown for the transmission of the virus or whatnot, but maybe just a closer look would be a better idea, and some other restrictions than just shutting down everyone across the board, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting what you say too about like how people have that perception where they go into a gym where it's just like, covered with sweat and everybody's exchanging germs, like bumping into each other and all that stuff. It's just interesting because it's not true. We've been to a lot of gyms, man. And it's like, maybe one gym I've noticed where it's like it was kind of unsanitary and like there's a lot of people close to each other in that type of situation. But it's just crazy how people have that perception. But I want to ask you though, just like for being like in this pandemic the last 8 months, what have you like truly learned maybe about yourself, or maybe just kind of like being like an entrepreneur?
On a personal level, I definitely learned that when it comes to fitness and health, and the importance that it has for a couple things. First of all, like being business-wise, being in a virtual space and having some kind of establishment in a virtual world when it comes to like social media or just like blogging or internet-friendly stuff, basically, that's going to be important. And it's definitely somewhere that there's been a hard turn for, if there hasn't already been before this pandemic, when it comes to fitness and availability of content and availability of your services of some sort. That's going to be important, and it definitely made me sort of bolster that, or just keep on going with that. So that's one. And then on a personal level, when it comes to like just fitness and health and so on, just recognition of the fact that things like your sleep and other recovery methods, they matter a whole lot. And the fact that I haven't had to work with clients for the greater part of the summer, and not having to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get to a 6 a.m. or a 6:30 client, it changes things in terms of, how many hours you can get in a night, what quality of sleep you can get, other things, respecting your nutrition or staying on schedule with your training and all that stuff that comes along with it too. So I've been able to, be able to really, really, hammer down on that myself. And it's made a huge difference with my own training and the energy levels and whatever else. And you realize just how much you've been burning the candle at both ends when you get the chance to actually focus on it.
Yeah.
So that's definitely definitely the main thing that I have to say has been the personal revelation for me, and why I kind of actually sort of liked the lockdown situation because of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was spoiled because during lockdown I had a chance to actually work out at a gym throughout the entire time, so I was a
Okay.
little bit spoiled. But yeah, no, even regardless, even if I was working out at home or just stuck doing outdoor workouts or stuff like that during the summer, it would still I'd still say the same thing.
Yeah, gotcha. Now you have to look at the silver lining, so that's good. And then I want to talk a little bit too, Lee. You're really big on not wanting to be known as like an influencer, and we hear that term, that word, all around social media, which like, especially in the fitness industry, I could go on a tangent about this, man. Like, I don't like that word personally either. Like, most people are not influential and they're not leading people in the right way and just doing it through like integrity. So let's talk about this. Like, why is it that you don't like, being known as a fitness influencer?
And also too, like, how come, like, what brought that side out to where it's like, you're not afraid to kind of expose like the BS and like tell the truth?
I think the exposing stuff was definitely an unpopular sort of route to take within the fitness industry, at least at the time that I started doing it. And I wanted my blog especially to be about subjects that were unconventional to what's the typical fitness talk and so on. So a lot of blogs would be out there about 6 ways to improve your bench press or to have stronger pulls or whatever. And that's perfectly fine. But I wanted to deviate from training content specifically and talk more about things that I saw in the industry that, contained myths that might need to be debunked and so on, but more about just the sociocultural aspect of fitness as a whole and just the culture and what kinds of things could be dangerous to the culture or what kinds of things could affect somebody's mind, even if they're new to the fitness industry or new to fitness as a whole as just a client. So that's the sort of general way that I wanted to take things with the things that I wrote and the content that I produced. And yeah, it was more unique at the time, I believe, because I started writing about stuff like that around 2011. And it was definitely more unique. It wasn't as spoken about as much compared to today, maybe because there were fewer platforms to even say these things on, but that's the route that I want to take. As far as not being an influencer, I mean, everybody's free to do whatever they want. I don't want to have any sort of attachment to the decisions that they make in that regard. I share training information that I believe in, and I share content that I think is useful for somebody to help them, but I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about that content, and I'm just a vessel that can deliver that content to them, and that's about it. So if somebody follows me because they want to follow me, I don't even like using the term followers, but if somebody wants to follow me because they want to follow me, then I would encourage them not to, because I don't give any personal information about myself on social media or on the internet or anything like that. I give fitness information. So my delivery might be something that, that my delivery might be something that resonates with somebody, but they don't know anything about me as a person. And I've kept it that way, right? Unless they're my actual, close friends and in-person contacts and whatnot. So, they could, for all they know, they could end up finding out or hearing something about a view of mine or something about a proclivity of mine or something about whatever about me personally that completely doesn't resonate with them at all. It's completely against what they're into. And then all of a sudden it invalidates all of my content that I've put out, fitness content that I've put out, because they're not going to listen to me or pay attention to me because they hate me now. Yeah. Right. And it's like, well, that's because it's about me. Well, I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about the content. So I'm leaving me aside. The only thing you guys know about me is my name and the information that I have to share. So if I leave it that way, I feel like I could reach a larger audience of people. I feel like it's going to help the larger percentage of people with no distractions from that information. And so I wouldn't call that being an influencer or anything like that. I don't vlog. I don't make some kind of, daily posts. I don't wish people a happy Monday every single week. I don't talk about life. I don't give platitudes on existence. I don't do any of that stuff, right? It's all just fitness. And so, if you want to talk about being somebody who might be more of an authority in the fitness world, well, I'd like to take on that title. But somebody who's more of an influencer in terms of something that can sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Persuade people to follow certain paths of life, for example, or, I'm doing this and I want you to do the same thing type of thing when it comes to day-to-day life and so on. I want you to think the way that I think about these things. No, I'm not about that. I'm not about that. And if that means that I have a slower rate of change in terms of the size of my audience, so be it.
Yeah, no, I love that. So well said. I really respect that you just keep it to just business, right? And I always tell people too, I tell some of my fitness pros that use social media as like a business slash service media, right? To where it's like you're giving out good business stuff and tips around whatever you're teaching. And at the end of the day, you're serving because you're giving value, with that, with whatever you're posting. So I really like that.
Yeah, and that's the approach that I've taken. And you make, I mean, like, it definitely makes enemies regardless of whatever you put on the internet. You're always going to have people who just decide to hate.
Mhm.
But there's definitely fewer reasons, I would say, for people to have a negative approach toward you and your stuff when you take on that sort of route with it. And hey, it's not for everybody. Some people don't have any goal whatsoever with regards to doing it the way that I'm doing it. But I just feel that it's the least likely to create contention on the internet if you just keep it based on what you do for your job, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah, and I like how you kind of distinguish, based on authority and an influencer. So I want to kind of stick with that about you being the authority because, man, you've been featured in a ton of major publications. Like TV, radio, like online magazines. I mean, print magazines. That's pretty impressive. So I have a two-part question. A is how did you get kind of featured in all of these like major publications, and B, do you feel that it's helped you out like to really position you, Lee Boyce, as like the authority?
Yeah, well, to answer the B part first, it definitely has helped because, I mean, one sort of feeds off the other now. So now I'm sort of getting featured in places and asked to contribute to places or be appearing on this or that or the third because of all the stuff that I've done. But at the same time, all the stuff that I've done is sort of helps sort of build up the resume, so to speak, so that I can actually, say, okay, well, look at what I've done here. What do you think about me being on this? Or what do you think about me writing for that? Or so on. Right. So it's sort of two-way serving. But as for the first part of the question, how did I start getting into it? Well, I mean, at the beginning, when I started out as a trainer, I was 20 years old, and I was just doing stuff that I learned from, the track and inventing exercises, creating silly things that I thought were good because of their difficulty level, but didn't serve too much purpose for a client. And it was flashy and it was fun to watch, but it wasn't really useful. And any good trainer who watched it would probably be like, "What's this guy doing?" So I began kind of, well, I mean, like I had a couple of people who really helped me out and gave me some good resources to start learning from, one of which was tnation.com. And
Mhm.
so that was the one out of a few other websites that really stuck with me and that I really, really liked the content from a whole lot. And I thought that it was like just a shrine of great information, so much great stuff on it. And all the coaches on there that were featured, I thought I just looked up to them. And this was back in 2008, so 2009, sorry. And
Yeah.
so at that time, it was guys like, there was a smaller core group of people who were writing for T Nation on the regular. Chad Waterbury, Nick Tominello, Dan John, Mike Robertson, Charles Poliquin, people like that, And so it was only a matter of time before when I started working based off of the stuff that I was reading off of T Nation and copying the exercises and making the clients do this, just read, absorb, and then test and put it out to the clients and make them start doing it. And I kept on doing this, and it started really taking, like, my training style changed a lot. Those influences that I got from those trainers, those great coaches, it was really, really taking hold, and it was doing a great job for improving my skills as a trainer. The next step for me was just like, I was seeing that other trainers on the gym floor were starting to sort of like copy the stuff that I was doing because it was pretty good stuff. But the respect was growing in my gym where I was working, and it was getting me more clients as well. And so my next step for me, I was like, I just want to be respected the same way that I respect these coaches that I'm learning from. And that's where the snowball sort of started to roll in terms of just trying to pitch the authors, trying to pitch the editors. And I literally just cold emailed one of the editors for the magazine. And it took me literally dozens of attempts at pitches, but finally one got accepted. And it was a very small
Yep.
contribution to a monthly recurring article. And so I had one piece in that article. And from there, I just said, okay, I don't want to be a one-hit wonder. I've got to think of more stuff. I want to try to come up with more content. And it worked out. And so then I ended up getting something in there about every month. And then it turned into more frequently. And, we're I guess, almost 12 years later now. And so, yeah, it's been a good time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's exactly what we teach like our fit pros too, is like, how do you go from like a generalist to specialist to that authority level, and that's one of the ways is getting featured in, major publications like that. So you get more eyeballs on you and you get to that authority level. So that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what you said, Lee, just like the experience, right? You said you started when you were 20 years old. And how old are you right now?
33.
30, a young 33, man. So, at 13 years of just like putting in the sets and reps, for those 13 years to get where you are now. And a lot of people just want instant gratification. They want the prize without the work. So, given these 13 years, what is like, let's go with two of your biggest like lessons learned from, 13 years of putting in the work. And then can you give two of your go-to tips for an aspiring fitness professional getting into this field?
Well, the first one I'd have to say is stick with what you know and stay in your lane. So that would basically mean that if you don't have too much experience about training, how do I put this? Okay, let's say you want to give advice for the lifter who's over 40, right? It's very hard to do that if you're a 22-year-old trainer. It doesn't matter how much you know, just because of the fact that you haven't really experienced that yet. The
Yeah.
same way it would be hard to talk about, like if I was to talk about training through knee injuries without having had mine, right? So things that are sort of close to home for you, for example, if you're 22 and you've been training for size since you've been 18 and you've gotten great results, well, that's great. You're at a head start because you have a lot more that you can share about that from personal experience and anecdote, and also from the studies that you've been doing in school or whatever you've been doing, right? So it's like it's twofold. So I think that staying in your lane and sticking with what you know. If you know bodybuilding, talk the most about bodybuilding. If you know fat loss and cutting, talk the most about conditioning training and fat loss and nutrition. If you know the most about strength training and powerlifting, then talk about that sort of thing. If you don't know about Olympic lifting, then don't talk about Olympic lifting other than stuff that's very general. And if you try to position or poise yourself as an authority on a subject that you're not very versed in or that you don't have the life experience for, then it's not going to go too well. I've definitely made that mistake early in the career and early in the writing world as well, because that's where you get eaten alive by comments and stuff where people don't have too much else to do. And so when it comes to making sure that you stay on top of the right part of your craft, I think that's integral to making yourself sort of be known as an honest authority anyway, and not just somebody who's just trying to get eyes on your stuff or whatever. So that would be the definite first piece of advice that I could give. The second one, last 13 years, I would say be open to the fact that, I'll say it from a training perspective, be open to the fact that things change for people. Your body is not going to be able to respond the same way at any age. And if you don't start respecting the fact that this happens and that it's a good and normal thing to happen, then you will not be able to train hard and strong and heavy for the rest of your life. And the problem that a lot of people fall into is the fact that they think that training hard and training heavy and training strong should be sort of not relative to where they're at. So they'll remember their PR of 500-pound deadlift when they were 22 and think that they have to keep on matching by the numbers that when they're 32, 42, and 52, right? When in truth, it has to be relative to certain things, right? When you were 22 and you had that 500-pound deadlift, you hadn't accrued any injuries yet. You had perfect joints. You had 8 hours of sleep a night and no responsibilities, and you lived at home, and your stress levels were great, and you were eating home-cooked food and all that stuff. You had no kids. You had no family. You didn't have other things and other responsibilities that are giving you gray hairs now. So when you're 42 and you've had a hip surgery or a hernia surgery, and you've had a strained lumbar spine, and you had a knee injury here and there, and you're getting 5 hours a night because you work 60 hours a week now at your office job, and all these other things, you can't really expect the performance to be the same. Not to mention you have 20 more years of wear and tear in general life that is going to play a part. I don't care who you are. So all that stuff means that you have to sort of put things to scale and use a different point of reference in order for you to choose what your perception of training really hard and doing really well and training heavy is. I have a belief system that programs, for example, they're great for goals. They're great for achieving goals. They're great for beginners or intermediate lifters. But if you've been under the iron for a long time, is it still as necessary? And if you are still setting goals, what are the goals of? Are they still to be continuing to get stronger and stronger and stronger, or are they something else, right? What are you programming for and why? So things like that are little questions that you should be constantly asking yourself. I don't follow programming anymore for myself. Like, I just train intuitively, and I try to keep things under a general umbrella of what kind of goal I'm after, or what kind of training effect I'm going for. But as far as trying to, okay, I deadlifted 505 for 2 this year, I want to try to get to 515. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Strong enough, got enough muscle, big enough. Now I'm trying to train to be pain free, train to perform very well, train to be very rounded in all of the 11 aspects of health and fitness. Strength is just one of them, and I train differently. I train, and I know when to back it off, and I know when to amp it up. And those things, you'll find that you get more affected by things in your environment a whole lot. And these things become super important for you to take note of, so that you can train well when you're 60, 70, all that sort of thing. You talk to somebody who's 70 years old, who looks amazing and who has a great body, who has the body you want when you're 70, and you ask them what they've been up to, and if you think that they're going to answer and say, oh yeah, I still deadlift for my 90% of my 1RM twice per month, and I do this and I train. No, that's what they did when they were 23. Now that they're 70, they're probably going to say, I do way more cardio. I do way more focus on my mobility training. I train for higher reps in general when I do lift weights. I stay away from the big barbell movements. I don't do them quite as often as I used to. I make sure I mind my joints. I keep my sleep on point. My nutrition is great. That's what their answer is going to be, undoubtedly, and that's what's really going to last you the test of time when it comes to fitness and training for the long haul. And people have to understand that.
Yeah. Whoo, Lee, man, that was pure fire. I would say if you had a mic on you, just pour some water on that thing's like on fire. I like it though, man. Good stuff.
Yeah. And I just want to say too, Lee, so 13 years of experience, and obviously what we just talked about earlier about, 8 months of this pandemic, where do you see the fitness industry just as a whole going into 2021?
There's going to be a lot more virtual training for sure. And the reason why is not just because gyms will be closed. Even if gyms open back, there's going to be a lot more virtual training. I've gotten a lot more waves of clients coming through for virtual training, as in my online programming stuff. I don't do like Skype sessions and stuff, but I do just, buy my programming, and then I'll, with a detailed intake process and so on, I'll prepare customized programming for you. And then I'll follow up with you and check in every week to see how things are going as you go through my 8-week plan. So stuff like that, or virtual training where it is Skype sessions and Zoom sessions and all that stuff, it's going to become a thing that picks up a lot more steam. And the reason why is because even with gyms opened, the last 9 months, people have been locked out of gyms, at least around here. And so because of that, they've taken the time to build up their own home gyms. Yeah. And now that they have these home gyms in their garages or in their basements or whatnot, they're not just going to abandon them altogether with all the money they put into it. They might be scared because of COVID stuff or residual COVID stuff to really go back to the gym. There might be still restrictions on them. There might not be. But they might say, you know what? I put all this time and money into my stuff. Let me just use my stuff. I'm going to keep on training here. It's convenient. I don't have to go anywhere. You know what? I'm going to try to get a trainer to work with, to do programming with me so I can use the stuff at my home. And that's it. So there's that side of it. And second of all, they might say, the other thing that might be big is they might say, okay, I want an in-person trainer who's available to come to me in my place. So I think the other side of what's going to happen in the fitness industry is going to be a lot more in-home personal training compared to in-gym personal training. And so it makes a demand for trainers to be mobile and capable of getting from one place to another more so than just being able to jump into the gym and train their list of clients who come to them. So I think that making a decision to, if you don't have wheels, maybe get a set of wheels and drive to different places, it might become your key to being a still lucrative trainer compared to what it was leading up to this COVID.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you on everything you said, just because, again, I think that, as humans, we learn how to adapt to any situation. And, these past 9 months, you were forced to either, A, put your health in the back burner, not do anything, or B, you adapt and you pivot and you figure out how to sit there and get your exercise in. And I think people are at the point too, just psychologically, where everything's at our convenience, like Netflix, like food delivery, just everything, to where why not fitness as well too?
Yeah, 100%. And people want the quick, people want the easy, people want the convenient. And as best we can oblige to that, that's good. If we can give them what they're looking for as trainers and make it more convenient for them, whether it is via online coaching or whether it is via actually, okay, you've got a great home gym, well, I can make myself able to get there. They might even pay a premium for that. So it can meet people both ways. It can meet people halfway, etc. And, if this is where the demand lies, it's just like anything, right? If no one's watching Facebook anymore and everyone's watching Instagram, and you want to be on social media and have some kind of effect or an impact, then I guess you got to get on Instagram. And it's the same way that it has to be looked at for personal training. Well, if the demand is in the main downtown core of the city, and now because of COVID, no one's in the downtown because everyone's working from home, well, guess what? The demand's going to be out in the suburbs, period. Right. And, that's the reality around here anyway. So that's probably what it's going to be like in a lot of other metropolis kind of cities. So it's good for people to sort of be able to adapt and make themselves available, because this is a tough industry that isn't as simple as working for Toronto Dominion Bank or something like that. Right. So, there's more bending that we have to do in order to sort of make ourselves work for the industry and make the industry work for us.
Yeah, definitely. So let's shift gears here, Lee. So what brings out that killer instinct, side of you? I think that everybody, as an entrepreneurs, we all kind of have that go mode and just like that relentlessness, that fire. And I want to use like Michael Jordan as an example. If you watched the Bulls series, like The Last Dance, like just how relentless and just how Michael Jordan had that killer instinct, like what brings that side out of you as an entrepreneur?
I've probably never said this on the air anywhere before, but like I've just always wanted to be number one.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that I am number one by any means, or that that's even quantifiable, but I've always had the goal to, wherever I am, number one, be the youngest person in the space, and number two, be the top performer or whatever in the space. That's what I wanted, and so for a lot of the workplaces, well, I didn't work at too many workplaces, but for the workplaces that I was at, I usually fulfilled that, especially the youngest part. I was the youngest writer for T Nation. I was the youngest person at the medical clinic that I worked at. I was the youngest trainer at the gym that I worked at when I first started training, all that stuff. And I think that I'm the youngest staff member of the college that I work at too now. But getting off track here, well, my point is that the killer instinct that you're talking about that I had, it just came from a desire to always be the top. If somebody asked me back when I was 21, 22, what's your goal as a trainer? I said to them, and this is true, what I said was, I want to be the top strength coach in North America. Completely unquantifiable, but it was just a goal that I made for myself to push myself to really be great at what I did and to be respected at what I did. And my goal has always been to achieve respect from the masses, whether it was, the client base or whether it was my peers, especially my peers. But that being the driver, it made me really, really push to want to succeed and do well and do noticeably well. So regardless of what's happening sort of inside or outside, that's kind of what's always remained consistent. And I could have easily become a little bit complacent with certain accomplishments that I've made up until certain points in time, but I'm just not the satisfied type when it comes to that. And some might say that's not a great thing, but I think that it's definitely been instrumental in helping me achieve the things that I've achieved thus far, and know that there's still more to accomplish.
Yeah. I mean, we're the same way, man. So I can totally relate. I mean, why is respect such a huge thing from you? And like, was this drive maybe, was it an upbringing thing from your mom, your dad, or, how did that kind of like occur?
I think that respect is a big thing for me because, well, in the fitness industry, in any industry really, like if you're looking to get, get somewhere in the industry or whatnot, the worst thing that you can do is kind of like burn bridges or create enemies at the same time. And if you get respect from your peers, especially ones that you look up to, it probably means that you're doing something that's pretty right? And there might be a lot of people who disagree with you on the client side of things or on the, just the general public side of things. But in the professional side of things, if within the industry you're looked at as one of the best people or one of the top guys or somebody who's a great resource, well, you can't really get any better than that, if you ask me, because this is a bunch of other experts in their craft saying that you are an expert at the same craft. So that's why I sort of seek out the respect. And, I try to stay on top of my P's and Q's in terms of being able to maintain that respect. So I don't my blog titles, for example, they're quite incendiary, but the subjects that I explore are things that are, in my opinion anyway, something that's rooted in a lot of sort of all-sided logic, something that I can look at as many sides of something, so I don't upset people as long as they take the time to read the stuff, right? And so I think that making sure that I cover my bases in that regard by making sure that I'm looking at all sides of the picture, making sure that I'm addressing things in a certain way that still shows respect to them, making sure that I am, putting respect where it's due when it comes to a new exercise or a new idea or something like that. Just make sure that I'm crossing my T's and dotting my I's in all those respects, or it's going to be a great way to sort of preserve that. And I think that it's very important to do as professional courtesy is going to be very important. And if I'm not on anybody's bad side and I don't give too many people too much information or reasons to be upset with me on the internet, for example, then even better. It just allows for fewer people to really hate on me or hate on my stuff or whatever. And that's a good place to be. So that's kind of the way that I see it, and that's the sort of the way that I try to approach it.
Yeah, respect, man. So I know earlier you mentioned like now you're getting more sleep, right? So walk me through kind of like a day in the life of Lee Boyce. Like what do you do in the morning, like morning routine wise? You have something you do like midday? Do you have a wind down routine at night? But I'm just fascinated by people's day-to-day routines, their habits, their routines, their systems, all that type of stuff in their lifestyle.
My days are pretty erratic just because of the fact that I don't just do kind of one thing for work. So it depends on which day of the week we're talking about. Right now, we've just gotten back to training clients. Before, like during the COVID thing, it was no training clients, obviously. So, during that period of time, I was training a lot. I still am, but I was training every single day, and I was waking up, let's say around 7:30 or so. Go to bed at 11 o'clock or whatever. Wake up around 7:30 or so. I'd intermittent fast, so I wouldn't be eating breakfast first thing. Wind up for maybe around 2 hours or so, and then by 9:30 I'd head down to the gym that I'd work out at downtown, so that I get down there by around 10 something, and then I have a great workout that's maybe a couple hours long, and then after that it would be noon, and so then by then I'd start my first meal, make my eggs with chicken bacon and brown toast or rye toast, and that's about it. And I would eat that, and that would be my first good meal. And then just take it easy for some of the day. If I had to do like online coaching stuff with program design or something like that, then I'd work on that sort of thing. Write articles if I had to work on a deadline, and a lot of computer work. And then it would be a matter of getting my second meal ready, which would be a good meat or fish with a side of vegetables. Probably have some snacks in there at some point as well. And that would basically be it. Then I'd sort of veg out for the remainder of the evening. And, it sounds like that's not too much to do in a day. And listen, it would vary, but that would be what comprised a lot of the time when I didn't have clients or anything like that. And during the summer, the semester was closed as well for school, because the school closed for the summer too. So I had one less thing to do as well. So it allowed me to really focus on, just rest and recovery and quality of training and quality of nutrition and all that stuff. And so now that two of those things are back since the lockdown ended, which is training clients and being back at the college, that takes a lot more of your time, right? So I'm doing my best to still maintain all those habits that I sort of built up since, let's say, April until September, October. So now I've got classes that I have to go and do virtually. I have classes that I have to record as well at the lab at the college as well. So that eats up a lot more time of traveling there and getting the stuff prepared and so on, then uploading it and putting it on the website, on the platform there. So there's that, and then waking up early for training sessions as well, the gyms that are open. I have 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m.s, 8 a.m.s, those kind of clients. And so you have a string of 3-4 clients in the morning. And so that takes away from the time that you have to write, takes away from the time that you have to program design for the online clients. So, you have fewer hours to accomplish what you want. And then you have to find some time to train in there as well. So that's sort of my reality as of now. and I'm still trying to get my 5 workouts in per week at least, and stay consistent with it. And so it gets a little bit tougher, but it's still something that I'm determined to continue doing, and get to bed at a decent hour so that I can still get good quality rest, because nowadays I'm definitely going to need more of it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that. So what's next for Lee Boyce? And let's say like going into 21, do you have anything just lined up that just like?
Well, it's tough to say just because of COVID now, and especially with travel and how that's a little bit been compromised a little bit. Even if you do travel outside of the country and it's allowed to do so, now you have to spend time quarantining and stuff like that too, right? So it takes away from time that you need to do in locally. Now, the plan for 2020, I had like at least 5 destinations that I had to travel to do work speaking wise, right? So with speaking not being as realistic these days, or people doing more virtual stuff and so on, which I'm not as crazy about, with conferences and whatnot, it makes things a little bit different. But the plan was I was supposed to speak in Kansas City, in Edmonton, in Colorado, I believe, in Arizona for sure. There are a lot of different places around the States. There's even some stuff in Europe that I was supposed to check out and start doing. And it's sort of up in the air right now, whether or not the stuff is even going to happen, whether or not people are changing to the online platform, or if people are going to actually hold any sort of events whatsoever. What the state is of the lockdowns and stuff over in whatever the countries or whatever the states are too, because it's all different from one place to another.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit unpredictable, but in terms of the stuff that we can control, continue with the writing stuff, of course. Keep on working on more content with the blogs, of course. I got a lot of stuff I'm confirmed for more classes in the next semester of school going into 2021, so that's good. Just a lot more of the same, hopefully on just a grander scale. Keep on creating content for Instagram, for example. I got stuff going on for writing, different publications, working on some content, lots of stuff coming out for the taller lifters and that niche demographic that I've decided to go after over the last couple of years. So yeah, like it's just there's stuff always cooking, and there's always stuff to keep busy with where I'm concerned, and that's what's going on.
Right on.
Nice, man. All right, Lee. So we're coming to an end with this. And before I ask the last question, I just want to commend you for number one, like your time, and just really, man, just laying it all on the line on this podcast. I felt like there's so much value in this podcast, and I can already tell, like just 13 years, like you got a ton of experience and wisdom, and it's going to help a lot of, aspiring fit pros, to be able to listen to this podcast. And just thank you, man, for the work that you do. And like you were inspiration to us for a lot of years. We read your articles on T Nation, we've been following everything you've been doing. So it's been an honor to have you on this podcast. With the last question, I want to ask you, what does it mean to Lee Boyce to live a dynamic lifestyle?
Live a dynamic lifestyle. I think the first thing that popped into my mind was to not make the gym everything. So a dynamic lifestyle, and when I hear the word dynamic, I think of something that sort of shifts or changes in position or is in movement and whatnot. And so understanding that having a dynamic lifestyle would probably mean that training is just one piece of the pie, and it's not everything. So once it starts consuming too much of your life, starts consuming too much of your mental space, you're probably not in a good place. And you might think that you are, but I wouldn't say that you are, because there's no balance there.
Mm-hmm.
So let training kind of dictate, the important parts, and let it sort of be a foundation for a lot of things, because it is. But be able to know when you can forget about that sort of thing too, or when you can, deviate from, okay, I missed a day, don't beat yourself up about it. I had a bad meal, don't beat yourself up about it. So that kind of thing. And when I made this article like a couple years ago saying, if fitness is your identity, then I offer my condolences. And it's really, really true. Like when you think about making yourself identify as, just a CrossFitter, or just a bodybuilder, or just a power lifter, or just a lifter, like it's not doing anything for you. It's not good. And it's probably not going to get you too many great relationships either, when it comes to friendships, family, when it comes to people who aren't in this same space at all times. And, you want to sort of be able to be more adaptable than that. And it's going to probably give you some more mental calm when you do that.
Yeah, very well said,
Man.
So Lee, what can we support you on currently, and then where can the listeners keep up with what you're doing and find out more information about you?
You can check out my website is leeboystraining.com, and on Instagram, social media across the board, let me see, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, my handle is Coach Lee Boyce. So people can always see all the stuff that I put up every day on all three. And yeah, otherwise, even like my articles and whatnot that are for different publications, I always put them up wherever the social medias are. I always put links to them anyway. So you don't have to do too much scouring the internet to see updates where all that's concerned. So that's how you sort of keep up.
Right on. We'll have all that linked up in the show notes. Guys, go follow Lee Boyce, what he's doing. He's doing some amazing things. So once again, Lee, truly appreciate your time. And then we're out of here.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this video and another episode on pro tips on living a dynamic lifestyle. We truly appreciate it. Hopefully you got a lot of value out of it. If you're interested in getting more value like this from these pro tips, make sure to subscribe above. We're going to be dropping these daily. Also, if you are a fitness professional and you're looking to create more income, impact, influence, and independence, we just dropped our new book, Rise of the Fit Pros, so you guys can do all of that. And you can also start building your hybrid training model of in-person and online training. So make sure to click the link or the book right here to grab your guys' copy, and we'll send it over to you. Other than that, we're out. Talk to you soon.